Hello, and thank you for joining ElderWorks for our VAC Caregiver and Hero Support Week. Today, we are going to be joined by Mike Iwanicki and Tammy Anderson. They are both superintendents of the VAC, or Veterans Assistant Commission. Mike is from McHenry County and Tammy is from DeKalb. As they are going to talk about understanding VA benefits, questions for the experts. Please, as we go through this presentation today, please enter any questions you have in the comment section, and we will get those answered for you at the end of the presentation. Take it away, Tammy and Mike.
Thank you, Jennifer, for introducing us, and thank you again for inviting us to do this with you. And I want to thank everybody who is participating in this. You're going to get a lot of information about caregivers and caregiver support that's out there. You're not alone. There's a lot of things out there that can help you with. One of the things that we're going to be discussing is the VA Benefits Administration and a lot of the benefits that the veteran can get through them, and in some cases, the surviving spouses or family member. First off, we're going to hit off with just an overview of claims, and I'm going to start with the service-connected disability claim. And that is a claim that somebody files if they have an injury resulting or illness resulting from their military service. And it didn't necessarily need to be something that happened while they were in service. One of the most common ones is hearing loss. And that's primarily because a lot of the equipment they use in the military wasn't built for our comfort. It was built for mission effectiveness. And OSHA wasn't running around helping make sure we were all safe. So it's injuries and illnesses were not uncommon in the military. And sometimes the military later learns that some of the exposures that service members had caused problems, and they realize that happens later and then come back to it. And that's something that we work with on a regular basis. And another one we work with is pension, if you'd like to explain pension for us.
Pension is basically offered to veterans that have served at least one day during a wartime. They do not have to be in a war zone. They just have to serve one day during wartime. And then we stop and we look to see what is their income. It is a lot like Medicaid, to where they do look back 3 years, but we generally will sit down with the veteran or the veteran's family, and we will go through different types of options that are available. And we will tell them to bring in different paperwork if it seems like they would qualify. But we also look at it where a lot of people don't quite understand that with the VA, they have presumptive disabilities, which are considered due to exposures, that as long as you have a diagnosis of it, you can get service connected for the most part. Anyone that ever tells you that they'll get you 100% service connected, not true. But we will look and see what the amount that a veteran or the veteran's family would be eligible for, as opposed to if they're eligible for a compensation. If the compensation provides a higher monetary value, then we'll zero down that path. If the pension does, then we go that way. Now, the surviving spouse of a veteran who served one day during wartime can also be eligible for what they call the survivor pension. Also depends on whether the veteran passes away from something they're service connected for, or a presumptive to the location that they were at. Say, for example, that you have a veteran and they were in Vietnam, and the veteran passed away from myocardial infarctions. They had a heart attack, and it's on the death certificate. What we would do is we would look at that and we would immediately try to file a claim for dependent indemnity compensation. It is not a pension, but it is treated as such. And the best part about that is that is not income-based, whereas any pension is income-based. So if, say, a veteran wanted to file for getting a pension with aid and attendance, that could be upwards of $20,000 a year. But if the veteran makes $15,000 after all medical expenses are subtracted, then the veteran is only eligible for $5,000. So that's where the key is, the up to. So what we generally do is we will sit down with the veteran and their family, look to see what the income is, and then also look to see what the medical expenses are to be deducted. And if we can get the income down to zero, then that's even better. So a lot of times we'll do a little bit of pre-talking of that over the phone, just to make sure that we're going on the right track or if somebody's eligible. If you have a good accredited VSO that we were talking about, they'll be able to tell you right off the bat whether you are eligible or whether you're not.
And you bring up a very good point there, Tammy, and I brought this along so everybody can see it. Every once in a while, I'll have a veteran who will come in and they'll want me to sit down with them and tell them about all the benefits in the world that they're eligible for. This is the book.
Yeah.
This is just the law book. There is another book that explains this book, and it's slightly larger. But an accredited veteran service officer, they're not going to know this book cover to cover. And if they say they do, I'd like to meet them. But they're at least going to know how to reference this book to help you out. And so it's really important that even if you don't work with a Veterans Assistance Commission or Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, that whoever you do work with, you want to make sure they're accredited, and they should be able to show you. You can go to the VA website, and they have a place that has a listing of all the accredited service officers out there, and they can help you out. And some, like yourself, weren't you recently graduated from the VA advocate course?
Certified Veterans Advocate?
Certified Veterans Advocate?
Yes, I was.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thanks. The biggest thing and stuff that the reason why we push the fact that you should talk with a certified veteran service officer is the fact that there have been so many times that I've had veterans come in and say that they worked with somebody to get a claim or to get a pension, and it cost them $1,000 or upwards. By talking with a certified veteran service officer, it doesn't cost you anything. We just happen to be available. We want to help out our fellow veterans. Excuse me. And we want to make sure that they're taken care of, that they're getting the best benefit that's available to them. And that's where it's so very important. I don't care if you're a veteran listening to this or family member, but it is so important to get your DD-214, your discharge paper, get it registered at the county recorder's office that you live in. If you live in 4 different locations, get it certified, get it recorded at every single one of the county recorder's offices. It may not make a difference to you, but when something happens and you pass, your family is going to come up to us and say, we would like to have military honors for the funeral. And without a DD-214, most of the time it can't be done. And we just experienced this with COVID, is that there are a lot of veterans that either put their DD-214 in a very safe place and nobody could find it, and the location that we normally go to get the DD-214 was closed. So there were a lot of veterans during COVID that did not receive the full burial honors that they should have because they didn't have their DD-214.
And not only is the National Archives Center where they closed, they were on 25% manning until recently. So you figure the 2+ years that they were minimally manned,
Yep.
We're still waiting for documents from archives. So advice to any veterans out there or family members, find out where that paperwork is.
Yes, yes.
Have that available. You brought up presumptive, and one of my favorite presumptives to talk about, and not because it's a favorite, but because it's so important, is ALS.
Mm-hmm.
ALS, unfortunately, is very aggressive and has a very deadly outcome. And in 2008, when the VA added that to the presumptive list, it was for all eras of veterans. It wasn't just Vietnam, it wasn't just World War II, it was all eras of veterans. And we recommend that if your loved one had passed away from ALS and they were in the military, that you contact the service officer and see about getting that claim in. Of all the presumptive injuries, and you mentioned heart attacks and
Right.
people exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam, but of all of them, I have run into more people who had no idea that because their loved one who served in the Army back in the 1950s died of ALS, that they could actually get a benefit. And that's what we're here for, is we're here to help them. And that's also part of being an accredited service officer. Not only do we not charge, we try to get the word out. We try to encourage people to come in and get these things taken care of for their families.
And that's one of the things and stuff too, is if a veteran passed away in, say, 2010, of ALS or of any of the other presumptives for Vietnam, the Gulf War, Camp Lejeune, say that they passed away 10 years ago and the spouse hasn't remarried, that spouse could be eligible for dependent indemnity compensation. I tell a lot of my people, when they come in and we get them service connected, if, say, we get them service connected for the coronary artery disease, I tell my veterans and their spouses, please make sure if God forbid anything happened, but on the death certificate, please make sure that, say, the coronary artery disease is on there. On a death certificate, there are 3 separate lines for immediate reasons why someone passed. But then also below it, there is where it states contributing factors. And most of the doctors or the funeral homes or the coroner's offices are aware of some of the different disabilities that are afforded veterans. And they do try to make sure they review the veteran's medical file to make sure it's put on there. If it is, then that makes it so much easier for the surviving spouse. And at any point in time, we can do a DIC claim, a dependent indemnity compensation claim. Don't ever accept the word no from someone. If you went up to somebody and said, well, I heard that I could possibly get DIC, or I could get a compensation claim, or I could get a pension, and somebody tells you no, unless they look at all the paperwork and sit down, a good certified veteran service officer is going to try and find every option available to help you and to help make this an easier burden on you if someone is in a care facility, because it is so expensive. Also, the same thing with veterans with disability. If a veteran has over 70% as a service-connected disability, they are also eligible to go into some of the nursing homes that are a little bit closer, that are under contract with whichever medical facility they're attending.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they go to Hines has some local nursing homes that are under contract, just like Madison does, just like Lovell does. All these different ones, they have them. So if a veteran is 70% or more service connected with a disability, they could be eligible for nursing home care in the town that you live in, because that company or that nursing home might be under contract with the VA. So there's always options to look at. There's never one answer to a question. And I always tell all my people that there's always an and, a but, and an or when you're dealing with the VA. So,
Oh, you got that right. And that would go with any federal
Yes.
agency.
Yes.
There's always an and, but, or. And the federal government, and the VA is no exception, sure does love their paperwork.
yes,
And I know one of the common questions that you brought up was, what should people bring with them, or what can they expect to bring with them if they're filing a disability claim or a
Right.
pension claim? And for disability claims, I'm usually asking the client if, well, have you seen outside doctors? What are your diagnosis? Uh, have you ever gotten this question? I have service-connected disability. I need you to file it.
yeah. Or I've had somebody say, well, I've got Agent Orange, and Agent Orange, unfortunately, is not a disease. It's what causes some of these diseases. But
And that's the same pretty much with Gulf War syndrome. It's not really, which is a scary one. It's undiagnosed multi-symptom illness.
Yeah.
VA rarely gives it out because unfortunately, doctors need to diagnose in order to treat.
right,
So it's a very difficult one to get. And my findings on undiagnosed illness is usually when people have aches and pains all over, it probably could be an autoimmune disease, likely fibromyalgia, and we usually explore that. But back to the original question, which was, what does a person need to bring in to file a claim? Well, we have to know what's wrong with you and why do you think it's related to military? But just knowing what's wrong with you, an accredited service officer can go through that list and quickly identify, yeah, this is probably related to military service. This is probably related to military service. If somebody's saying, no, 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 none of this is working, they're not doing their job. They need to actually go through, look at what you're being treated for. At some point, it's a good idea if they have access to your service treatment records. So they may ask you to file an intent to file, and which is a form that says, I want to file a claim with the VA. That's it. And a service organization representative, which is allowing an accredited service officer access to your file at the VA so they can see VA Benefits Administration, so they can actually see if you have a service record there, your service treatment, what was going on when you were in the service. And so we can connect the dots and help you present a claim that's going to get approved by the VA or has the best chance of being approved by the VA.
Yeah, and like Mike said, you have to have the medical, you have to, if it's not a presumptive disability, if it's not something that the VA said, yeah, by being exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam or the DMZ in Korea or a few places and stuff that are in, oh Lord,
Well, you got,
yeah. There's a couple of different places and stuff that Agent Orange has been used. There's the Gulf War. Also, there's Camp Lejeune. There's a lot of different things that have to be done. The biggest thing before we can do anything to help on anything is you have to have a copy of your DD 214.
amen.
Without that, it's all guesswork, and all it's going to do is have us going around in circles. Because if I have to tell you different options, there's going to be at least 5 different options that maybe only one applies. So you have to come in, if you file a claim, you have to have had something happen to you in the service and it is still affecting you now. And you've gone through your different treatments. If you come in and say, well, I sprained my ankle in the service. Okay, but if you're coming in to file a claim, you have current medical documents that say that your ankle is sprained, we're going to file for it. You also have to show how it's progressed to that status. We can't just go from a time that you got out of the service in 1990 and then try and file a claim in 2022 because there's too much time in between. A lot of times and stuff, I tell people, think of it this way. Think of filing a disability claim is just like workman's comp. You're there, it happened because you were in the service. So we look at it that way. We just have to prove it. If it's not a presumptive, if it's not one that the VA already admits, yep, you were there, so this is a disability. If it's something that's not already approved by the VA, that if you have it, okay. Then we have to show a nexus. We have to show from the time in the service to current what the disability, how it's progressed. If we can't do that, then that makes it it's not necessarily not a process or not available, but it makes it very difficult.
Yeah, and why make it more challenging than it should be? So
Right.
we're here to help get it done.
Yes, and make it as easy as possible on you.
Yeah, before coming on, we were having a discussion of a question that I had before, and that was a group of individuals who all served together and all had very similar claims because they had very similar outcomes. And the question was, well, they all filed their claims together, they all claimed the same things, and they all got different answers from the VA.
Mhm.
How is it possible that the VA is doing their job if they get different answers? Well, my favorite answer to that question is everybody's unique. We're not all the same, and we all have different responses to stimuli. We all have different responses to contaminants. We all have different responses to disease. I mean, we just went through COVID. How many people had a bad cold and how many people passed away?
Right.
It's the different responses. So it is very unlikely that two people are going to have the same outcome, even though the claim may be similar.
Right.
And
You can't,
yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't have 10 veterans that were in the Army and stationed in Vietnam at the same base and have the same outcome, have the same claim, because each person is individual. And like Mike says, your body's going to handle things differently. And whereas to what extreme is it affecting you as opposed to affecting the person that you were stationed with? It could be night and day. Unfortunately, a lot of times the stuff we do get to people that say, well, how come he got 80% and I only got 40? Well, look at it this way. 80% means that has affected him worse than it did you. And you can't compare yourself to anybody else. All you can do is just do the best that you can for yourself. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help get the best possible outcome for you, be it compensation claim, be it a pension, be it the dependent indemnity compensation. We get people in our offices with all kinds of questions. Anything from how does the VA work with Social Security? How do we count our disability compensation? Is it counted for taxes? It's not. Is the pension? It's not. There are some things and stuff there that every day there's always a new question that someone has. And unfortunately, and you can attest to this, unfortunately, the answer today would be no. But the VA could change your mind, and next week the answer could be yes. So if you've got a good VSO, the VSO is going to do everything in their power to help you get the best benefit that's available. If they know something's coming up, which we do know some
Mhm.
House bills and Senate bills are coming up, but I'm not the type of person that wants to go, oh, okay, well, if this goes through, this is what you could get. No, you want somebody who's going to be honest with you. You want somebody who is not going to fill you with all kinds of sunshine and unicorns. You want somebody who is going to say, this is how it works. We are at the mercy of the VA. We do have our techniques. We do have, each office has their different ways of doing things, but we do try to, it's all the same outline, but there are a few different ways people attempt to get the same outcome.
Yeah.
So,
Just because the operation's a little different from office to office doesn't mean the outcome's going to be that much different.
exactly.
And you were mentioning legislation,
Mhm.
and I mean, that's another thing we keep an eye on. But there was one in particular that's going to affect.
I wouldn't say anything about it just yet.
Oh, not yet? Okay.
No, not until it passes. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm the negative person here. I'm always, if, even though it may look like it's 99.9%, approved, we just got to get that signature. I will not say anything until after the signature, because I've had some where I've called up a veteran and said, hey, they've got your, basically your decision. They just haven't done the letter yet. And it looks like you're going to be at 60%. And then 2 days later, they retract it. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I just told them 60%. And now the VA took it back because they're going to refigure something, or they didn't figure all the stuff in there.
Mhm.
And then I keep my fingers crossed and I pray to God that it stays around 60%, so that at least I don't feel like an idiot and feel bad going, I'm sorry, they dropped it down to 30, so no. When it
Yeah,
comes to
good.
legislation, I always just wait till it passes. Once it does, we can shout from the rooftops.
Okay,
So,
we'll wait until that passes.
yes.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of people bringing in their medical records. We talked about why outcomes are different when it comes to the VA. And oftentimes I get the question, well, why does the VA make it so complicated? Yeah, have you ever gotten that one?
Oh yeah, we got that one. Most of the time, I look at people and I just say, yeah, the VA. Why did they make it complicated? Because they're government, and the government has made everything so complicated that that's why you know we'll get the person to come in, talk with them, get information as we're talking to them, because there are some of the forms that are 10 pages long that maybe you only had to fill out 4 instead of all 10. But we know it, and it's a form we see every day. You only see it once. And so a good VSO is going to sit down with you and go over those forms and make sure everything goes through. Because if you send it in wrong, you just added some more time on, because by law, they have to follow certain procedures of what they do when they're doing a claim, when they're doing a pension, especially doing pensions, they check with Social Security. I don't know anybody out there who's ever had a really easy time with Social Security, but these are different departments that the VA has to contact to verify incomes, verify other information. And as long as you're honest and upfront with your service officer, there shouldn't be any problems. And we do know how to keep it streamlined. We do know what's required. There are a lot of times papers are sent out to veterans, and I just tell them right off the bat, this is coming your way. Don't worry about it. I've already looked at it, and they're just letting you know this is what they're doing, that they're reaching out to, you were talking about like your civilian doctors that you go to instead of the VA. They will send out a letter to the veteran or the spouse or something and say, that we're talking with so and so, and it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
You've already done it. So You know, some of the stuff that they try to put the fear of God into you for, no.
You know, if in doubt, if you're filing a claim and you're losing an accredited service officer and you get a letter from the VA and you don't understand it, pick up the phone and give us a call.
Yep.
I can say, you know, we're a busy office, you know, as you are.
Yep.
Uh, I tell every person who comes through our office when we're filing a claim, whatever it is, say, I have got so many claims outstanding right now. I tell them, I need your help.
Yeah.
So you get a letter from the VA, pick up the phone and give me a call. We're prepared to do our part to help you.
Yeah.
Sometimes that involves you helping us too, to help us stay in the timeline of where your claim is going. And we can do spot checks and see what's going on with your claim and see if it's stalled somewhere. In fact, that's another question. Why is it taking so long for some claims to get done right now?
Well, they can give you the politically correct one, or they can tell you the truth. And it just, unfortunately, with claims, lately they have been taking a long time. And that's just because new people are at the VA. There's been a lot of them that have retired. So there's new people, and it does take them a while. But there's also the new presumptives that were added for Vietnam and Blue Water Navy, all these different groups. And so special areas are handling them. They came out with a program that it used to be you had to go to, your claim would go to Chicago, say for us here. It would go to Chicago because that was our regional office. And it would take forever. It would take at least a year and a half or something.
18 months was common.
Yes. And then they said, well, we're going to do this national work queue. So that way it would go out there and it would pop up. And if somebody in Seattle had time, they'd grab it, they'd work it. And then if they needed things suspensed, it would suspense it and put it back in. So the national work queue could have anybody pick up claims. And unfortunately, we don't know what's going on with the VA at this time, because there's always a wave of things going smoothly, and then all of a sudden everything halts.
Right now, I've been seeing a lot of claims getting stuck in the ready to rate section.
Yes.
All the development's done. They've certified that this is ready to go to someone to look at, to assign a rating or make a decision not to rate on it. And there it sits.
Yep.
And
You just get stuck.
Yeah.
It's like all we can do is tell you to contact any of your representatives, and have them contact the VA if it's been sitting there for such a long time. We do have some. There are some that it's ridiculous the time frames that these claims are sitting there, all because they don't have the proper personnel trained. And they are trying to make their attempts at it, so don't get me wrong. There are a lot of good people at the VA, and they do want to help. But it's just like any other place. If you have a few people that know how to do stuff and a bunch of people that don't just yet, it puts a lot of work and stuff on the people that do know, and it takes it a little bit longer. So,
Yeah, and that brings me back to why we're here in the first place, because we're talking about caregivers.
yep.
And here we are talking about claims and pension and frequent questions we get. Well, how does this fit into a caregiver? Well, the VA is a huge partner if you're talking about somebody who may be eligible for dependency and indemnity, a survivor's pension or a veteran's pension. We're talking about care. And that's what this gets down to. Somebody who has a service-connected disability, who may not have had one before, now suddenly is eligible for the care that can be provided at a VA medical center. And sometimes that includes service hours or hours of care that they can get at home. Sometimes that means that individual can get a primary care nurse or a therapist to come to the home. That's why this is so important when it comes to caregiving. And a bigger thing, which is something that is very difficult for people who suddenly need these higher level of cares and on limited income, we're talking additional income, additional monies coming into the house. For service connection, that can be significant. Even pension can be a big help. I can't tell you how many families didn't realize that mom, who was married to a World War II veteran who was a prisoner of war, that dad was eligible for VA disability ages ago, but now we're getting mom dependency and indemnity. And that extra money is a huge help for mom's care. And that's why we're talking about these benefits, because the VA is a huge partner, and using an accredited service officer can help get you in the door to the VA.
Yeah.
And that's why we're talking about all this. And I do have one other question that we constantly get, and I know you've gotten it too. The VA denied my claim. Now what?
Well, that's one of the good things and stuff about with the VA is if you file a claim, or even a pension, they have to provide you with a reason why they didn't. And then they also have to provide you with the reason of, we didn't approve you for the hearing loss because your hearing was not to the capacity to be rateable. And then they'll tell you what the capacity is. So that's the one thing and stuff there is that, a lot of times and stuff, when the veteran comes in and they say, well, I want to file for this. Okay, we can, you've got all the documents, everything's all good to go. We can. But I always tell them right off the bat, I cannot guarantee you a percentage at all, but I can guarantee you that I will do the best job I can. And even if a veteran is service connected at 0%, say for hearing loss, they are service connected. They're just not getting compensated for it. So if a veteran, and what Mike was talking about before when he was saying for the hearing loss, if you have a veteran and unfortunately they want to get into the VA healthcare, but their income is too high, and all medical expenses does not bring it below. So what we a lot of times will do is we'll try to find something that happened to them in the service that we could possibly file a claim for. If you're service connected, then at 10% or more, you can get all of your VA healthcare done. And if you're 0% for hearing loss, well, you can still get your hearing tested and you get hearing aids, and they're the same ones that you spend $5,000 or $7,000 for out here. And that's the one thing that I always try to do is I always try to get my veterans in the VA healthcare, because that's where the caregiver program comes in. So you can also get signed up for that. And also I tell every single one of my veteran in the healthcare, if you need something that will help make your life a little bit easier, ask your VA doctor. If you can't get around too well, they'll provide you with a walker. If I can't get to here and there, you need a scooter, they're going to provide you with a scooter. They're going to provide you with whatever you need. And the VA healthcare also deals with hospice and palliative care. They a lot of times have it where they have it contracted with a local one. But there's a lot of things and stuff that you could need. If your loved one is home, you want to take care of them at home. They can help with getting a hospital bed in there. They can help with if you needed a concentrator for any kind of respiratory problems. They can help get this for you.
They have the hospital administration. They have HISA grants, money,
Yep.
which is money to adapt the house. So if you need a ramp to the front door, so your loved one can get in and out with their wheelchair. They can do that.
Yep.
If you need grab bars in the bathroom, so they can get up and down easier,
Yep.
they can have those installed. You know, it's like you said, you got it. Once you're in VA healthcare, ask
Ask.
your doctor.
Ask. If you're not sure, ask. The worst they can, if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. But if you ask the question, you got a 50-50 shot. And most of the time, if it, like I said, if it's there to make the veteran more comfortable, then 9 times out of 10 they'll approve it. So
And that's, I find that over and over again. People are shocked at how much the VA is able to help.
yeah,
And especially if you get into VA healthcare. And DIC, you talked about that. There's a big advantage on that one. If the
Yep.
spouse is eligible, surviving spouse is eligible for DIC,
Yep.
it comes with health insurance.
yep, you get the
A huge
Champ VA.
benefit.
Champ VA is really good, and a lot of times you can use the Champ VA. Biggest question I get from people is, how does Champ VA work with Medicare? And it's very simple. If you have Medicare, you can use Champ VA as your supplemental. If you have Medicare and then a supplemental and then Champ VA, and a lot of times I'll have people go, well, I can get rid of my supplemental now that I have Champ VA. A lot of times I tell them, wait till you get used to Champ VA.
Yeah.
Then if you feel that you're okay with that, then fine. But just, be prepared with that. Just make sure that you know it. But any of the disability, any of the compensations, pensions, and DIC, they do offer, there are additional things that if you end up having to go into a care facility or you have somebody at home helping you, there is the housebound additional benefit that could be applied for. There's also the aid and attendance that can be applied for. And that allows a little bit extra money, and hopefully it'll help. One thing that a lot of times I will talk with a veteran who comes in for pension is we'll look and see what dollar amount. Here's one of the things that I tell them to kind of think through, and I could be wrong, but no, is, you sit down and you look at it. If you go for a VA pension, that gets paid directly to the veteran, does not get paid to the nursing home. So if, say the nursing home bill is $5,000, and between Social Security and any kind of pension and the VA, it's $4,000. You're still required to come up with that additional $1,000. If someone is very tight financially, there are times and stuff where I have talked with veterans' families and I've said, you might want to look at filing for Medicaid. You cannot get, if you are in a nursing home, you cannot get VA pension and Medicaid. If you're at home, you can. I don't know why. VA's goofy way of doing things. But if you're in a care facility, you cannot get them both. But if you are on Medicaid in a care facility that it is $5,000, but you're under a Medicaid designated room or bed, then, the monies and stuff that you have go towards it, minus any incidentals that the VA would help out, which is up to $90. Medicaid is $60, but VA would bring it up to $90. Medicaid, then if there are additional fees, Medicaid's covering it. So that's why a lot of times you can't go with just one way and this is how it is. You need to sit down with a veteran service officer who's been certified and who understands this, just to see what's going to fit the best for you. You might come in with one thing specific in mind, but you're going to leave with maybe a different idea.
And heaven knows we've seen that over and over
Oh.
again. A family comes in with one idea
Yeah.
and leaves with a different one, more oftentimes better than what they thought.
Yeah.
I do have to point out that Jennifer's trying to signal us that she has some online questions, so why don't we go ahead and start addressing those. Jennifer, what do you have first?
Hi, guys.
Sorry, Deanna, not Jennifer.
It's okay. It's okay. If you call me Jennifer, I take that as the world's biggest compliment. So that's a good thing. We do have several questions that are have arisen. So let's go to our first one. Lynn is asking about PTSD. Is that a considered presumptive? And are neurological conditions viewed as a disability or a benefits service qualification? And I know there's also a question about dementias coming into it. So it's a very broad question. Can one of you take that?
How about if I address the dementia? I'll let you grab this one.
Okay, so, excuse me, no, PTSD is not a presumptive. The VA does have their list of specific presumptives to different exposures, but it is not a presumptive. It has to have been an event that happened in service, preferably that it's documented in service. And then you also have to have a current diagnosis of PTSD. And if those two are required, then we get statements from people, and we also make sure that we've got all our T's crossed and our I's dotted. But that's for filing for PTSD. It does have to have been an event that happened in service. Or if you're Guard or Reserve, it could be anything that happened while you were doing your training or on your way to training or on your way back. As for neurological conditions, then you're talking things that are more specific to each incident or each person. So to say a general ruling on it, not necessarily. But there are some things that they can be considered secondary, from anything from Parkinson's or a multitude of things. What I generally do is if a veteran is diagnosed with any type of neurological conditions, I look to see basically what they are, what they're associated with, and then you start trying to put the pieces together. It's kind of like a puzzle. So if you can do if you can make A equal B equal C, then you've got a chance. So
there are two exceptions, though, of course.
Right.
There's MS and ALS.
Yes.
ALS is automatically considered service connected if you served 90 consecutive active duty days or more.
Yep.
And MS is considered service connected presumptively if it is diagnosed within 7 years of exit of service. It's that
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And also for everyone that's out there, if anyone who has served in the United States military is diagnosed with ALS, they need to file a claim. That is one thing that is universal for every branch of the service. Any time in the service, if you're diagnosed with ALS, you need to get a claim put into the VA.
Yeah, automatic 100%, as I recall.
We never ever give direct numbers, you know that.
Okay, but
because
that's
the minute you say 100%, they're going to come back with 50.
okay. As of today, the last time I looked at the law.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay. So you had a question about dementia?
Yes.
That's an interesting one because I've looked at that before. If the only part of the claim is my husband or I have been diagnosed with early onset dementia or Lewy body dementia, I have yet to actually get a claim approved for that.
On its own.
On its own.
Right.
It's usually related to something, and one of the things that I can relate it to, Vietnam veterans, they're susceptible to developing various forms of lung cancer. Well, some of the chemotherapy treatments for lung cancer are very aggressive and can cause somebody to develop chemobrain, which is in effect dementia. So the effective treatment causing dementia, I'm able to get that service connected. Certain medical illnesses can cause dementia as a secondary condition. We can get those service connected. Dementia on its own, generally not. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Basically, if somebody does have dementia and it's caused by any other type of illness, if a patient's doctor says, yes, it is caused by, say Parkinson's, caused by Parkinson's. Okay, the doctor needs to make the statement that it is caused by Parkinson, and here's why, or here's how. As long as they can give a valid argument and proof that there is the possibility that it is related to a disability, then we have a chance. As long as we have a professional doctor stating what they believe is true and factual.
Okay. You had mentioned lung cancer. If a veteran passes away of lung cancer, and we're not sure that lung cancer is a presumptive,
It's not.
then what would a family do to put that together? And is there a time limit after you had mentioned 10 years earlier, Tammy? Is there a time limit that the spouse or their family could go after what would be presumptive benefits?
No, there's not a time limit. Lung cancer is not necessarily presumptive. Basically, again, each veteran is an individual. Each one has to be handled on a case by case. My suggestion would be is to have a copy of the DD-214, have a copy of the death certificate, and also have a copy of his most recent medical papers, even if it was 10 years ago. See if you can get a copy of the most medical paperwork, because it will explain what types of cancer it is. And any good VSO is going to do their research. They're going to make sure that if there is any slight possibility that it can be service connected, we definitely try to do that so that we can get the spouse the dependent indemnity compensation. But if someone has presumptive, they pass away from, let's say they pass away from a heart attack, and they did that back in 2012, and the spouse didn't know that they might be eligible. They've been married, they're still married to the person at the time of passing, they haven't remarried afterwards. They can come in with a DD-214, a death certificate, and we can file for dependent indemnity compensation for them. Does not make any difference how long. It's if they passed away from something presumptive or service connected, then there is the possibility. So
Yeah, bring it in.
yeah,
That's the big thing,
Yeah.
because it's kind of like we said earlier, talking about ALS. ALS is very aggressive. People pass from it relatively quickly. They may not have known it was service connectable. So now you've got the surviving spouse who may be struggling financially or whatever, who is owed a benefit by the VA. Just because they passed 10 years ago doesn't mean we can't still prosecute that claim before the VA and get that family benefits.
Okay. So one of the other questions that came up was, are there any benefits for surviving children of a veteran? Are there benefits for them?
The answer to that is maybe. I'm
Good
sorry.
answer.
Mike dropped his pen.
I take notes just in case. The answer to that question is maybe. And I've had cases come to me over the years where you have actually an adult dependent child. And the way the VA defines an adult dependent child is that the child became totally disabled before age 18. And in those cases, yes, we can file claims on behalf of that dependent child. Usually there is a surviving parent that is in charge of that child. Sometimes there's a guardian. It just depends. I recently prosecuted one of those, and it takes some time sometimes to get all the medical information together to prove that that person was actually disabled before age 18. But it's kind of like she said, get all the information together, and we can effectively prosecute that with the VA. And some of those benefits include education benefits and healthcare. And that's typically a big one. Other ones, if it is a in-country Vietnam veteran who had previously filed a claim for a condition related to Agent Orange exposure and was denied and since died, and there's no surviving spouse, a surviving child can file and get those benefits. And I've had that happen before as well. The child came in, and I'm not going to get into the particulars of what I was thinking that child was asking for, but we ended up filing the claim, and her and her brother ended up splitting about $400,000. So in back payments that should have been paid to her father,
Okay.
but weren't. But that's only in-country Vietnam veterans who have previously filed and were denied for a condition the VA later found was related to Agent Orange.
Okay.
If in doubt, call an accredited veteran service officer and ask.
So there are two more questions, and I know we've had you for a long time today, but I do want to ask them. One, earlier we were talking about using the VA for medical and having the veteran go through the veteran's medical. If a veteran doesn't go through the healthcare program, are they still allowed to file for benefits? That was one of the questions that came in.
Absolutely. There's technically three parts to the VA. You have the Veterans Healthcare Administration, the Veterans Benefit Administration, and I always say the Veterans Cemetery Administration. We don't like to talk about that because that's just sad. But healthcare and the VA benefits filing for a claim do not go hand in hand. They don't necessarily have to. If a veteran is eligible for VA healthcare, it's a lot of times I tell people it's a lot like socialized medicine. You go to their doctors, their copay. A lot of times we get people that say, well, I want the VA insurance. It is not insurance. It is healthcare. But a lot of doctors or a lot of the facilities now are trying to deal more with community care. So if you see a VA doctor and say you want to get your eyes examined, well, it's going to be 6 months before you can go and get it done through the VA. They'll send you through community care to get it done. So you can go somewhere locally. The VA benefits side is the VA. If you are going to the VA for the healthcare, they are going to pull up your VA medical records to review them when they're working on your claim, just because that's available to them. But I would say I have like a 50-50 mixture of people come in with their civilian records, we use those, or they come in with the VA or both, and we go through them and we make sure that they're all very favorable for the veteran and very helpful for them, and then that's when we send them in. So it does not make any difference where you go to the doctors. What makes the difference is the diagnoses.
Okay, that's good to know. Then
I use the VA myself.
Okay.
We all do.
So I like it a lot. And as I joke with some of my clients, I have the best insurance your money could buy, but I go to the VA. So, and the VA does good work.
It's good.
I've been going to the VA since 2000, and I go to the Rockford Clinic, Madison Hospital. And I always tell everybody, if you want to go somewhere to where you set your clock back 35 years, this is where you want to go. It's the first time going up to Madison. I had an older lady and her husband, and there was a group of them all at the hospital. And they said, well, you got time for your appointment. Come over here and have a cup of coffee and a cookie. So they wanted to sit down and chat. So it was nice. So, kind of gives you, it also helps out. You get a lot of veterans who are very proud of their branch of service, or proud that they serve. And this is one of the locations, be it Rockford, be it Aurora, be it McHenry, be it anywhere in the United States, that you go to the VA hospitals and clinics, and that camaraderie is there.
The sense of community and acceptance, right?
Yes. Yep.
And it's well deserved. Our veterans deserve the best. And you two are assets to Illinois, to DeKalb and McHenry County, and to our veterans. One of the questions I just wanted to touch on is this nationwide that we have veteran service officers, or is it specific to Illinois? Someone had asked that question.
There are veteran service officers nationwide. And when I first got into this, I wasn't aware that there were state and county, but every state predominantly does have a VA representative. Now, that being said, just like with Illinois, we have county veteran service officers, which is great because it's more with our community. Like Wisconsin does, but Wisconsin's is paid for by the state. We get paid by different means per county. My suggestion and stuff is that if somebody is interested nationwide, if they're interested in filing a claim or asking something, go to your local one and ask them. But here's the trick. If they sit there and give you excuses or are very vague, say thank you for your time, get up, walk out the door, go find another one. There are ones through the VFW, American Legion. Myself and Mike, we are also affiliated with what's called National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, and they are nationwide. I have clients throughout the United States because people say, oh, call and talk to her. And so I help them out.
I say it too to all my clients, go talk to you.
Thanks a lot.
So,
But the biggest thing and stuff is, if you go in to talk to a veteran service officer, a VSO, and you don't feel comfortable with them, you don't have to stay with them. You can say, thank you, can I have my stuff here? Thank you very much. I'll be in touch. And you can get out and walk down the hallway. There might be another one. Go in and talk to them. There are some people that you don't click with. For the longest time, I would get some different veterans that would just kind of look at me and go, well, you weren't in the service, you don't know. Even though I have things all over my office saying, United States Air Force veteran. They'd always say, well, did your husband serve? And I'm like, yeah, okay, this is going to be fun today. But some of the people that you look at, I've seen some VSOs that I think, oh gosh, they've got to be really good ones. And then they open their mouth and it's like, no, they're not. And there are some that are quiet. And I think, And then I sit there and listen to them in awe because they know a lot of information. Looks can be deceiving, but how you feel comfortable with somebody, that says it all. That is
and a quick thing you can do is you can go to the VA's website and look up accredited veteran service officer, and they have a list of them by state and county. But it's kind of like you're alluding to. Sometimes finding an effective service officer is like buying a car. Your mileage may vary. So, if you get a bad feeling about the guy or girl you're working with and you don't feel comfortable with them, find another one. Just make sure that they are accredited and make sure that you're comfortable with them. If they're not willing to work with you or just seem to be handing you a piece of paper and saying, here, you fill this out and get it back to me and I'll turn it in, that's not actively helping you adjudicate your claim.
No. And one key thing and stuff that I definitely, out of anything that we've said today here, please remember this. If you go to any place and they say, well, we will charge you $500 to file a claim, get up and walk out, because any VSO who is accredited with the VA does not receive any money from the client to file a claim. So if somebody ends up saying, well, when you get your settlement, once you get your back pay, you just pay me $1,000. No, that is against the law. So there's a lot of us out there. We do it. I get paid for by the county. Mike gets paid for by the county. You come into my office. If I get you $100,000 in back pay, that's your $100,000 in back pay.
And I'll be dancing in the streets for you.
That's not really going to be a good sight to see, but okay.
You guys are a wealth of information. And it's just amazing. We have one final question, and then I promise I'll let you guys go. The question was, can the VAC help a veteran or their family truly get those benefits that were denied? Now, we talked about that earlier on a particular case, but is it best to go to a veteran service officer, the VAC, to look into possibly being able to get benefits that were denied?
I would say absolutely. If in doubt, ask. I've had many clients come to me after they've been to an attorney who didn't want to take their case. And I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times attorneys don't necessarily, they understand workman's comp laws and they try to apply those practices with trying to do battle with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and it doesn't always work in their favor. And, the attorneys get frustrated too. There are attorneys that do specialize in this, but they generally won't touch a claim until it's either going to the Board of Appeals or court.
Because that's the only way they can get paid.
Right.
And they get paid, it's an automatic 20% of what your back pay is. And it's taken out even before, if you win and say you get $100,000 in back pay, already immediately $20,000 is taken out, and that check is sent from the VA to your attorney. So you don't even see that. So there's the biggest thing and stuff is, if somebody tells you no and it doesn't seem like a logical reason why they say no, then go to another one. And most veterans, hand to God, we call them barstool counselors, but most veterans will talk. And they'll talk about their claims, and they'll talk about who they went to. And a lot of it is word of mouth. So if you're told no from an attorney or from some other organization, the answer is always no unless you ask the question. So go to another VAC, go to a VFW rep if you wanted to. But for us, that's what we do on a daily basis. We work with claims, we work with whatnot. All of my people that I have working for me, I've always told them, when somebody comes in and it's not a cut and dry one, think outside the box. See if there is something. I was always taught that if somebody wanted to file for something for, like, say, MS, but they weren't diagnosed in service, all right, let's go through their service treatment records. If there's any time that they went into the doctor with a problem that they weren't diagnosed with, there is a probability or a possibility that that might be related.
And on the MS one of my earliest cases of filing an MS claim, it was in his Army treatment records that he was complaining that he was dropping glasses.
Mhm.
And it was bothering him because he says, I feel like I got a good grip on it, and then it falls.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what was wrong with him, and
Right.
gave it to a neurologist, and the neurologist said, oh yeah, sure, that's an early sign of MS. And we were able to prove the case. But it's kind of like she said, a good accredited veteran service officer is going to take the time and go through the records, try to think outside the box. And maybe you're coming in because you want to get service connected for X. And in the process that you've been denied for, and in the process, we find out, hold it, you've got this and this that you could be filing for. You know, if you bring us this evidence for the X, great, but let's get evidence for these two Ys you got over here. We think we can get you service connection for that too. So, you know,
So I mean, this has just been priceless information, and you two are great resources. The thing that I think I can sum up with is, if you are a veteran, it means sit down with VAC, because they're going to be able to point you into the directions and help without charging you
Yep.
benefits that are there for you, your spouse, and potentially an adult disabled child.
Absolutely. I mean, veterans and family. My philosophy is that if you come in, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you whether you have something that is possible, or I'm going to tell you not. And if either way, I'm going to tell you why. And to me, I've been through it whenever I first got out and was told all kinds of lies. So no, somebody comes in, I sit down, I tell them, I go, here's some possibilities. This I don't think is going to fly.
and I would say that would be pretty much true for most of the people who are accredited service officers with the state association.
Yep.
Awesome. Tammy, Mike, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to our veterans, and for being a partner with ElderWorks Educational Services.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.